So there are a couple of people I want to recognize before we have the preaching for today. We had a wedding here today. We had 2 disciples join our church a few weeks ago, and they got married yesterday. I'm going to ask them to stand. Richard and Candace, just stand up. They were wedding and here, and let's show our love to them and congratulations. Absolutely. Blessings. It was great. Thank you so much. So it's always funny that we have... Pastor Dave does bloopers all the time. Sometimes you know it and sometimes you don't. So we were doing our Maundy Thursday service, and I was kind of out of my routine, and I always call my sister before the service starts, and I forgot to turn my phone off. And so there I am preaching the service, and the phone rings, and it's called bells. So, all these bells were ringing, and I was so out of sorts, I couldn't get to my phone. It kept ringing and ringing and ringing. And so I got in touch with the person that called me. It was God who called. So I took God's call later in the day. And then this morning, we had the Easter sunrise service. And as you know, I'm very detailed. I had everything planned out and gave Bob Miller the little cups. And we're going to sing Christ the Lord is Risen today. And when I came out for sunrise, it really was spectacular about the sun was coming up and all these planes, you know how they let the vapor out? You can kind of see the streaks of white. And I looked up and there were just streaks. I'm going to send you a picture. There was just streaks of these plane fumes and vapor all over the place. And I called it firework. God sends fireworks for Jesus. It was so cool. And I really was so touched that we forgot to sing Christ the Lord is Risen today at the beginning of the service, So, but I don't think anyone missed it. But I thought, oh my God, so I saw Bob Miller. I was up here getting ready for today and I thought, gosh, we didn't sing that hymn. But anyway, it's all good. It's all good. So let's think about where we have been in the past week. Think of these words, one of Hosanna, as we had Palm Sunday last week. Confrontation. Jesus had confrontation with the temple authorities. Betrayal. Jesus was betrayed by Judas. Denial. Peter denied Jesus 3 times. The trial, where Jesus was taken from this place to this place. They couldn't determine which court in which to prosecute Jesus. The scourging, spear in his side, crown of thorns, nails in his hands and feet, crucifixion, and the tomb. And today we celebrate where the stone has been rolled away and the tomb is empty. Resurrection. So let's think about the story that we just heard. I like this particular story because these 2 disciples, they just don't know what to do with themselves. And leave it to the women to save the day, Mary Magdalene. So it goes like this. Mary goes to the tomb, the stone is removed, runs and tells Simon Peter and the other disciple. Simon Peter and the other disciple run to the tomb. The other disciple gets there first, saw the clothes, but doesn't go in. Then Peter goes in. Then the other disciple goes in. The other disciple believed. And what do? They go home. This wonderful event. And what do? They don't tell anybody about it. They just, well, thanks a lot. They head home. And then here comes Mary Magdalene. She's on the scene. And she has this encounter with Jesus in the garden. And she finds the disciples. And she doesn't go home, but she finds the disciples and she proclaims, I have seen the Lord. I have seen the Lord. Generation after generation have told this witness account of Jesus risen from the dead. And as Easter people, we have faith that Christ was dead, He was buried, but on the 3rd day He rose and will come again in glory. Easter proclaims that in the resurrection of Jesus Christ, death has been overcome, and that is big news for us. Death has been overcome. We find ourselves in this world, in our country, in our community, where we increasingly live in a secular society. A society where there is little or no value in God, little or no value in Jesus, of the resurrection, of life after death. Death is just simply the end of an earthly life, and that's it. Recent polling shows that more than half of Americans are not making church a part of their life. I was reading, it said the most popular church in America is St. Mattress. Do you get it? St. Mattress is the most popular church in America today. And then they ask people, why don't you go to church? Boring. Boring. So it's our job to enlighten, to lift, which we do here today, each and every Sunday, or we attempt to do it. With our liturgy, with our prayers, with our choir, with our music. No one leaves this church bored. Well, we've got to let others know about it and not keep that secret to ourselves. We are called to be like Mary Magdalene, who ran to tell the disciples what is going on and that Jesus has risen from the dead. Think about those 6 words. Jesus is risen from the dead. These 6 words are the foundation of our faith, of 2 billion Christians in the world. And it is these words that hold us together as a community of faith. It is these words that are whispered at bedsides, shouted from rooftops, shared at dinner tables, workplaces, and in neighborhoods. Jesus is risen from the dead. Imagine, friends, there are people who have given their lives to proclaim these 6 words, Jesus is risen from the dead. One of my favorite people, Dietrich Bonhoeffer, the German martyr who opposed the Nazis and was forced in seclusion, and he had a secret seminary that he managed to teach. And right before the war ended, he was killed. Oscar Romero in El Salvador, who was preaching and he was gunned down while he was celebrating Mass on Pentecost Sunday. Think of the life of Martin Luther King Jr. in our own country. A man who just reached out, Jesus is risen from the dead, and preached equality for all, and was assassinated. Think about these words that inspired Desmond Tutu in South Africa. Think of the impact these words have had as they show us forgiveness and joy, reconciliation, self-giving love, and charity. We have our Easter offering that we are sponsoring, and I'm going to go through each one a little bit, and we're going to get an award from Homestretch. Our church is very involved in Homestretch, and so they came one day to interview Pastor Dave. And they said, Pastor Dave, what is it about Homestretch that connects with Doolin? And I told her, I said, well, I know it's all about skills and knowledge and hope. And I said, a lot of these secular businesses and people, they can provide the skills and the knowledge, but it's the church. It is Doolin Church that provides the hope that these folks, that these clients, that these families need. And what is hope? But it's an expectation that something great is going to happen. And I told this person interviewing about how we do their graduation ceremony here, and I said, it's like a revival. People come up and they witness about how Homestretch has helped, and many mention about how Doolin Church was a part of their experience of where they are, that they graduated. I told the experience about, I've been in BJ's before, and I saw our cashier, and I recognized her as a client from Homestretch. I think I've told you before the story. It's one of my favorite stories. I was down at a local bank, and I went to cash a check, and she asked for my ID, and I gave it to her, and she looked at it, and she said, I know you. Made me a little nervous. She said, I know you. And she said, "You're the preacher down at that church?" And I said, "Yes." She said, "I'm a graduate of Homestretch." And here she was a teller there, and she remembered me, and it was just, we had a great conversation with each other. And here was someone who was hopeless, had fear in her life, and yet we provided hope to her and all these other families and clients that they can lift themselves up and have wonderful lives. I think about, we support L'Arche. L'Arche is a group that helps, a ministry helps with intellectual disabilities. And I got a call from L'Arche this week. And she said, "Pastor Dave, I understand that Dulin Church has a relationship with the Nelson Reeves family in Arlington." I said, "Yes." I said, "Nelson was the first funeral I had here when I came. It was 2001. And they had, he was the last dairy farmer in the county of Arlington. It's over there near Wilson Boulevard, and you'll see there's some bridges there. The road goes, and there's kind of a tunnel underneath, and that was so his cows could go back and forth in his farm. And he goes back to the Torreson family. We have a window here of the Torreson family that bought that home in 1863. And so Arlington County bought it, and then they were trying to find a nonprofit to use this home. And so L'Arche will be having a group home of their residents in the Reeves family home, farmhouse there in Arlington County. And that we have a relationship with that family and with that home for generations, from 1863 to the present. I think about how we provide hope to friends with Free Minds Book Club that Alan Chin, the Dulin Disciple, helps with, where people are incarcerated, where they have lost their way, and then they are released, and they need some hope. They need some love. And Dulin Church provides that. I think about the Falls Church Community Services, that emergency needs in our particular community, and we have women of faith that are collecting food for them. And then one of our newest ministries that we support for Hope is So Others May Eat. And it's in Washington, D.C., to help people with just groceries. You know, I go to the store and I see a loaf of bread was $4.59. I saw where a box of cereal that I like, Raisin Bran Crunch, and they've shrunk the box. Soon the box will be this big. I know what they do. They make it the same height, but the width gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And, you know, to fill 2 groceries is, you know, almost $20, $25 a bag. And these are folks that get government support, but friends, it's not enough. And so the church provides hope. And that's why we're here today, to make that connection. These words call us to new life, to come out of the tombs that we have been sealed in, the tomb of fear and the tomb of homelessness and hopelessness. You think about people that need help in their lives, and they feel that they are just stuck. They're stuck in this tomb, and we're the ones who are called to roll away the stone and help them to come out and to love them and care for them and support them. And so that's what we do with our offering for today, with our Easter offering here at Dulin Church, $15,000 to support these many ministries. And the other thing that I leave with you is this. So many times we come to church, and like the disciples, what do? We go home. We go home. Let's be like Mary Magdalene. She went and told the disciples. You know, she said, look, get in gear here. This is a big thing. This is going. And then from her telling them, they then went out with her and told others about it. And it has been generation after generation after generation until we are here today. And there was someone in our lives that brought us to this place where we are today. And maybe think about who that was. For me, it was my grandparents, my parents. We just did church every week. But there was someone who was special in our lives who influenced us. And we are called to do the same. And not just to go home and keep it inside. So that's the message for us today. A great day of resurrection. And let's tell others the good news. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And we all say together, Amen.